May 7, 2008, Miami Beach, Florida. FBI agents watch through night vision scopes as a figure frantically digs in his parents' backyard. The shovel strikes metal. Inside a buried plastic drum, $1.1 million in vacuum-sealed cash. But here's what makes this arrest legendary. This isn't some cartel kingpin or mob boss. It's a Secret Service informant. For 3 years, he's been collecting government paychecks to teach FBI agents how to catch cybercriminals. And for 3 years, he's been pulling off the biggest retail heists in American history right under their noses. Albert Gonzalez stole 170 million credit cards and $400 million from Fortune 500 companies. Every time you tap your card today, you're using security that exists because of him. But how does the FBI catch someone who knows all their tricks? And what tiny mistake brought down the most successful double agent in American history? Our story begins not in a boardroom or a courtroom, but in the hot suburbs of Miami. Early 2000s. A lonely Cuban-American teen named Albert Gonzalez spends his days bent over a computer in his childhood bedroom. He's awkward, brilliant, and obsessed. A kid who once told a church advisor that his PC was his best friend. By 14, he's teaching himself to code. By 17, he's diving into dark corners of the internet, finding a community of fellow misfits in hacker chat rooms. Online, Albert finally feels seen. He adopts edgy nicknames, Kumbajani, Supnazi, and earns respect in forums like Shadow Crew, a black market marketplace for stolen credit cards. Little did he know one of those forum buddies was about to hand him the keys to $400 million and a one-way ticket to federal prison. Albert wasn't just learning to hack systems, he was learning to hack people. And his first target would be the US government. He's about to get a taste of real power. In 2003, at just 22, Gonzalez is arrested outside a New Jersey bank with a collection of fake credit cards. It's his first big mistake, but also his lucky break. Cornered by the Secret Service, the hacker amazingly gets off the hook. How? He turns informant, agreeing to be paid. The deal seemed simple. Teach agents how hackers think and stay out of prison. But Albert had a different plan in mind. You'd think a young hacker would lay low under federal watch. Instead, Albert was about to pull off the most audacious inside job in American history, using his FBI handlers as unwitting accomplices. By day, he's U.S. Secret Service informant CISU-1, drawing a government paycheck of $75,000 a year to teach agents the tricks. They even show him around to cybercrime seminars as a star example of making up for wrongs. But by night, behind his handlers' backs, Gonzalez is about to pull off the largest retail hack the world had ever seen. Late 2004, Gonzalez, allowed to move back to Miami for his health, reunites with old friends and falls into old habits. One friend is a programming whiz named Stephen Watt, who created custom malware for Albert's latest scheme. Another is a savvy sidekick, Damon Miami Towie. They form a mixed crew of hackers and carders, and they would cost retailers $400 million and force every American to change how they use credit cards. But first, Albert had to avoid getting caught by the very agents cutting his paychecks. In the mid-2000s, big retailers like TJ Maxx and Marshalls are unknowingly broadcasting customer data over poorly secured Wi-Fi networks. To Gonzalez, this vulnerability is like finding an open safe door. He calls his grand plan Operation Get Rich or Die Trying, borrowing from a 50 Cent album. Being subtle isn't his strong suit. The mission? Drive around with a laptop, war driving until they sniff out a store's wireless network, and jack in. Miami, 2005. Albert pulls into a Marshall's parking lot with $40 million in credit card data as his target. His laptop is already scanning for signals. Bingo, he hits an unsecured one. But Albert's biggest score was still coming, and it would happen right under his FBI handler's nose. It's shockingly easy. It was like finding a hole in a cash machine, Watt would later say. And this was just the beginning. Over the next year, Albert's crew quietly raids dozens of stores, from Marshalls to Sports Authority, stealing up over 40 million card numbers in what will become known as the TJX break-in. Each stolen card can sell for $10 to $100 on the black market, or be copied onto a fake card to withdraw cash. But the FBI was about to notice something very strange about their star informant. He was getting rich while every other hacker was going broke. On his 26th birthday, he throws himself a $75,000 party with champagne and girls everywhere. He buys a Miami condo and a blue BMW and gives gifts to those close to him. A Tiffany diamond ring for his girlfriend, Rolex watches for his dad and buddies. He even considers buying a nightclub to launder his growing wealth. $2.8 million builds up in his accounts. It's more cash than a 20-something can hide. Albert's biggest problem becomes counting money. He literally breaks a cash counting machine and has to count $340,000 by hand. And so, in a scene straight out of a mob movie, he decides to bury hundreds of thousands in his parents' backyard, inside plastic buckets. Gonzalez knows the clock might be ticking on his freedom, yet he can't resist showing off. But the feds, they have no clue. Not yet. By early 2007, banks and retailers across America are dealing with a mysterious outbreak of credit card fraud. Customers from Boston to Miami report fraudulent charges. TJX, the parent company of TJ Maxx and Marshalls, discovers a break-in, but can't pin down the criminals. 45.7 million customer accounts are potentially stolen, making headlines as the biggest hack of its kind at the time. Behind closed doors, federal investigators rush. They form a multi-agency task force, many of the same agents who had been patting informant Albert on the back a couple years prior. Now they're chasing an invisible enemy stealing millions from retail networks, and they're utterly confused. How do you stop a thief when you don't even realize he's sitting in your weekly briefings? Spring 2007. Deep inside a boring office building in Washington, a Secret Service cyber task force looks over logs from the TJX hack. Packet records, server logs, mountains of credit card numbers, but no obvious fingerprints. The hackers had been very careful, covering their tracks with foreign fake connections and custom malware. For months, every lead goes cold. Agents suspect an international ring, perhaps those notorious Eastern European hackers they've tangled with before. And indeed, halfway around the world, a similar chase is happening. Enter Maxim Yastremsky, a 25-year-old Ukrainian card broker known for selling millions of stolen card numbers. In July 2007, Yastremsky makes a mistake. He takes a vacation to Turkey, where local police catch him. When agents look into his encrypted laptop, the puzzle pieces start falling into place. What investigators find on Yastremsky's machine shocks them: a collection of millions of credit card numbers and a piece of malicious code identical to what was used in the TJX break-in. And then there are the chat logs. Endless lines of instant messages between Yastremsky and a mysterious American partner who goes by the handle Supnazi. Agents blink in recognition. Supnazi is a name they know. It's the fake name of none other than Albert Gonzalez, their own informant. You can imagine the disbelief, maybe even a sense of personal betrayal, washing over the team. The very hacker helped lead Operation Firewall. Their man on the inside appears to be planning the largest identity theft in U.S. history right under their noses. At this point, the investigators have two choices: quietly build their case against Gonzalez, or tip him off and risk him disappearing with his millions. They choose secrecy. For months, a tight circle within the FBI and Secret Service works behind Albert's back to gather evidence. They trace threads from Yastremsky's data that link to Gonzalez's crew. One break comes from an unlikely source: network logs from a Marshalls store in Miami. Sifting through wireless access point records, an analyst notices a particular device's MAC address, a unique hardware identifier that had accessed the store's Wi-Fi at odd hours. Cross-referencing other break-ins, they find the same MAC address showing up at another retailer's network around the time of a hack. It's a small but strong clue. The hacker had reused a Wi-Fi card, leaving a digital fingerprint. That MAC address is effectively a mysterious signature, a sign that the same criminal is behind multiple attacks. And it's in Miami. Now the FBI had Albert's digital fingerprint. The only question was whether they could catch him before he realized the trap was closing. Late summer 2007, a surveillance team sets up in an unmarked van outside a Marshall's in Miami. They know the hacker's method now, driving around hacking with an antenna from the parking lot. The plan? Catch him in the act. Night after night, they watch the dark lot, laptops scanning for that telltale MAC address to pop up on the store's network. It's slow, boring work, like fishing in the dark. But one night, around 2 a.m., they get a signal. On the van's monitor, a familiar MAC address appears on the store Wi-Fi. He's here. Adrenaline floods the agents. They spring into action, spreading out across the lot with flashlights and guns ready. For a moment, put yourself in the hacker's shoes. You're sitting in a parked car, staring at your screen, when you notice someone's moving. By the time the agents come together, however, the car is driving away into the Miami night. They catch only a frame, a sedan speeding past a red light. But Albert had no idea his closest friend was about to sell him out to save his own skin. It's a small victory for law enforcement. They now have confirmation their suspect is physically operating in Miami, likely Gonzalez himself or someone in his crew. The trap is closing. Damon Towie, his longtime friend and accomplice, has been quietly cooperating with investigators since day one, according to later court testimony. Perhaps Towie sensed the game was up and decided to save himself. Piece by piece, Towie feeds agents insider details, how Albert orchestrated the hacks, where he hangs out, even where he might collect evidence. The investigators now possess a collection of information, from chat records to eyewitness accounts, tying Gonzalez to the break-ins. All the while, Albert parties in Miami, thinking he's beaten everyone. He doesn't realize his best friend is wearing a wire. His handlers know he's a fraud, and tomorrow night, 20 federal agents will be waiting outside his hotel room. By early 2008, the case against Gonzalez has quietly gotten strong. A federal grand jury is prepared in Boston, ready to indict the whole crew. The authorities plan their arrest carefully. Gonzalez is known to carry a Glock, and with his Secret Service ties, he might smell trouble if agents around him start acting strange. So they maintain the lie a little longer. Imagine the tension for those few agents in on the secret, exchanging small talk with Albert in the daytime, perhaps even talking about unrelated cases, all while knowing he's the prime target of a massive investigation. They can't risk a hint of suspicion reaching him. Everything needs to happen at the same time: arrests, searches, seizures, to leave no room for escape. May 7th, 2008. Agents learn that Gonzalez has checked into the expensive National Hotel on Miami Beach with his girlfriend. That night, tourists wander the Strip, unaware that an FBI watching is happening nearby. In room 1508, Gonzalez is reportedly relaxing with his girlfriend. Little does he know, the lobby is filled with federal agents. Some pose as tourists, others as hotel staff moving into position. Shortly after midnight, a strike team rides the elevator up, heartbeats beating. They line up quietly outside room 1508. Bang! The door flies open. In an instant, agents flood the suite with guns and flashlights. Gonzalez, caught completely by surprise, freezes. He's pushed to the floor before he can even reach for the loaded Glock by the bed. His girlfriend watches in shock as cuffs close around his wrists. Just like that, the hacker is captured. After years of cat and mouse, the FBI finally has their man. In the room, agents find a collection of evidence. $22,000 in cash in a bag, high-end laptops still running, hacking gadgets, and that handgun. But the night's drama is far from over. With Albert secured, teams of agents fan out to lock down the rest of his operation. Co-conspirators in at least 3 states are being arrested almost in time. 11 people in total are charged alongside him. Agents search Gonzalez's family home in Miami, searching for more loot and data. It's there, in the quiet backyard of an ordinary house, that they make the strange discovery we saw in our opening. Buried in the dirt, inside plastic tubs and a 3-foot drum, sits $1.1 million in cash, vacuum sealed to avoid rotting. But the buried cash was just the beginning. What they'd uncover about Albert's crimes would shock even veteran investigators. In the coming days, the size of Gonzalez's crimes becomes national news. On August 5th, 2008, A federal grand jury in Boston charges Albert and 10 others for the TJX and related retail hacks, adding up to over 40 million card numbers stolen. Prosecutors show how Gonzalez's crew break-ins not just TJX, but also chains like BJ's Wholesale Club, Office Max, Barnes & Noble, and Dave & Buster's. And then, amazingly, more charges follow. It turns out Gonzalez had yet another scheme running in similar, a hack on Heartland Payment Systems, a major credit card processor. In 2009, while sitting in prison waiting for trial for the retail hacks, New Jersey prosecutors charge Albert again, this time for 130 million more card numbers stolen, mostly from Heartland, Hannaford supermarkets, and 7-Eleven. Attorney General Michael Mukasey calls it the single largest and most complex identity theft case ever prosecuted in this country. The numbers are shocking, almost hard to believe. Albert's total, 170 million credit and debit card accounts stolen in just a few years. Yet amid the media excitement, one detail nearly takes the spotlight. Albert Gonzalez was a federal informant the whole time. When reporters catch wind of this twist, it becomes a point of national embarrassment for the Secret Service. How could the agency charged with stop-signal cybercrime pay for one of its worst criminals? In 2010, Albert Gonzalez stands in a Boston courtroom in a badly fitting suit, looking nothing like the nightclub big spender he once was. At 28, he hears the judge give a sentence of 20 years in federal prison. 2 decades and a day, to be exact, as if to emphasize every crime. The sheer size of his theft, $400 million plus in losses and damages, is unmatched. The fallout from Gonzalez's series affects far beyond his jail cell. TJX alone ultimately spends over $170 million settling lawsuits and upgrading systems. Heartland, suffering from the break-in of its payment processing, counts at least $12.6 million lost in the immediate aftermath. Millions of consumers deal with canceled cards and identity monitoring. The case becomes a motivating moment for the payment industry. Experts loudly call for a fundamental change: the adoption of chip-and-pin credit cards in the United States. At the time, America's reliance on magnetic stripe cards had made these heists easier. Chipped cards, already standard in Europe, could have stopped Albert's plans. In the wake of the break-in, retail leaders suddenly get religion about security. Companies roll out chip-enabled cards and stricter PCI security standards, fueled in part by the warning tale of Gonzalez's crimes. Every time you dip or tap a chip card at a store, you're witnessing a legacy of this very case. A silent recognition that one hacker nearly brought the system to its knees, and the system had to get smarter. And what of Gonzalez himself? For a while, he vanished into the federal prison system. Inmate number 25702-050, serving time in places like FMC Lexington. But even as the world moved on and new break-ins made headlines, Albert kept a certain dark bad fame among hackers. Some treated him as a legend who beat the system for years. Others saw him as a betrayer who told on others when convenient. Albert, for his part, claimed in letters that his motivation wasn't greed so much as the thrill and a twisted sense of achievement. Perhaps that was true. After all, he had more money than he could spend, yet he kept pushing for bigger scores: 130 million cards, 170 million cards, like a person addicted chasing a higher score. Years later, in a quiet official move, Albert Gonzalez was released from prison on September 19, 2023. No celebration, no cameras. The man who committed the largest credit card heist in history walked out with little public notice. He went back into a world that had been fundamentally changed by his crimes, a world now much harder for someone like him to succeed in. Or so we hope. Because as cybersecurity experts often remind us, the game of cat and mouse continues.